All right, council members, y'all ready? Good evening. Let me call to order the special town council meeting for today, Tuesday, December the 12th. It's good to see everybody here. Sorry we didn't get to see you at the Christmas parade, but I commend our staff for the prudent decision, and I think the town supports that as well. And I want to wish Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish community members who are celebrating. Item number 2 is public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please come to the microphone, name and address, and by ordinance, it's 2.5 minutes speaking time, please.
Good evening. Mike Takey, 208 Venning Street, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I'd like to recommend that you consider 3 applicants from the village for the Historic District Preservation Commission. Megan Gravitt, who's an interior designer. She lives on Center Street. Miles Marchink, a former chair of the committee. He's on Toomer Lane. And I'd also like to reappoint Warren Player, who just was on there, but he was on a short term and he's come back again. But they're outstanding. They have the support of the community. They're already doing a lot of volunteer work to help out. And I know they'll be outstanding, especially since 2 of them have been chair of it before. I'd also like to thank Robert Crossland and Jane Gallagher, who are going off. They've done an outstanding job. We appreciate their time and effort on this committee, and like to thank y'all for delaying that motion to have people come from the outside. We have people from the from the community, and we have more in line ready to go. And so I want to thank y'all so much. And Corey Barber's staying on, and he's the outside person, and he's absolutely doing a great job. So I urge you to and recommend that you do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment, please? Yes.
Hi, Denise Fugo, Housing for All Mount Pleasant, from West Ashley. I want to say, first of all, congratulations, and I also want to say happy holidays. Housing for All Mount Pleasant wants to make sure that you're aware of our full support for the 30 affordable homes to be built on Faison Road. And we're here to help the town, and we're here to help the developer any way that we can. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment.
I'm sorry?
I was just asking if anyone else had a comment. You still have time, though. You can keep talking, Denise. We do appreciate being right to the point. Okay, if there's no one else, that will end the public comment portion. Item 3 on our agenda is executive session. Is there a motion that we go into executive session for the reason of considering applications to serve on the Historic District Preservation Commission, the Commercial Design Review Board, and the Construction Board of Adjustments? We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second before we vote. When we return from executive session, we may take action on any item, including any subsection of any section listed on an executive session agenda or discussed in an executive session during a properly noticed meeting, which this is. All in favor of the motion to go into executive session for the reasons stated, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are in executive session.
very, very comfortable. For some reason today it's rubbing.
Yeah, but they're beautiful.
Thank you. They're very versatile.
What brand?
Legence?
Oh, I used to like Stuart Weitzman.
Yeah.
Something happened to them.
They get sold?
I don't know if they got bought or sold. I don't know, private equity or something.
Yeah, the quality of them is down for sure.
Well, that might have been it. I think I read about it. Private equity. Now, what do you do here?
I work for the port.
Oh, you work for the port?
Yeah, I'm
What's
just
your
giving
name?
Jordan. Rubber.
Yeah, okay, I'm Denise. Well, I've applied. You helped us at when I worked at the Senior Center. You helped us with some grants.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, community giving. Did you apply this year?
You know, now I have two nonprofits that do affordable housing, but I was told that you guys aren't doing anything for affordable housing. But if you are,
Well,
we're looking for any and all shipping containers you don't want.
Is that what you're looking for? Well, I would encourage you to apply again next year for the community giving program. There is a section that is, for community outreach,
Okay.
and you would fall into that category.
Okay.
We just announced this year's awards. The applications next year will open in June, July timeframe, I think.
Because the lady I was working with, she moved on to another job.
Yeah, Kelsey.
Yeah,
Brewer.
that was it.
Yeah, she went to MUSC. So Janie Trail is doing it now, but you can get it on our website. Yeah, and just put a reminder on the calendar for the June timeframe for the applications. Yeah.
No, I'm glad you're gonna.
Yeah, we continue to. In fact, that's one of the highlights from the annual report. So did you get one last year?
I left the senior center in 2020.
We did 252,000 last year, and about the same this year.
Yeah. So
It's a
yeah,
great
if that can, we would love. Yeah. And again, if there's
So tell me what you're doing in the affordable housing space.
housing for all Mount Pleasant, we focus on Mount Pleasant,
Okay.
settlement communities, and Sweetgrass Basket communities, and so we were part of the Greg Hughes Berry development. That was 36 townhomes. That was Tony Berry. They built it. We were the nonprofit partner, and it was very interesting. 75% of the buyers were women, and the average age is 35. So that was the very first project, and now we're working on some of the settlement communities. They tend to be land rich, cash poor, so we're trying to assist with that because it's always the same story. They have a daughter gets divorced with children, and you need a separate space, or they have a disabled relative who needs a separate space. And then we're working on a couple smaller projects where different community groups own property, and they may want some apartments or they may want some affordable housing. And then my other nonprofit works more statewide, but it's called Holy City Tracks, and we're fingers and toes crossed, hopefully, working on. We're trying to purchase the Florence Crittenden building, and it's a 32 affordable apartments, but 10 are going to be for veterans.
So how are you
5 are
funded? I mean,
disabled.
in grant, like, is it all grant funded?
You know, for that project, we actually have a finance team that actually raises. And we've been blessed; they've been able to raise money nationally. Holy City Treks consults, so we don't charge. When we get people money, we don't charge them for it.
Yeah.
But we try to be consultative, and so although my board did tell me today, housing for Mount Pleasant, they want us to start suggesting that because we pretty much give the expertise away until we actually can get a project done, and then we take just 1%, so which is very low for nonprofits. But we're not really trying to make money; we're trying to fund future projects.
Yeah. It's really good. We've been, last year I was working on the Union Pier project, and just really learning so much in that space of affordable housing. It's been fascinating to see how many. I feel like our region, the different county and even different municipal departments that focus on that seem to be very disparate and not,
They don't talk.
right. And to me, I was looking and I was like, well, that's the first problem.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we have like a regional affordable housing department that all these falls under so that there's like a true, really intentional effort that surely will be.
And unfortunately, the numbers in And I started, Holy City Trek started in 2016, and now, and Housing for All started in 2018, and the numbers have just exploded. And even Mount Pleasant has quite a bit of elder abuse for people in the homeless. And it's just, I mean, I've learned a tremendous amount too. Yeah. So, yeah, there's no, I mean, just young women with small children. It's 5,000 women and families that are home insecure. So sleeping in sheds and cars and trucks. I mean, it's shocking. We have homeless kids at the college, 200 of them.
And sleeping in the cars.
It's just, in fact, a few years back, we found 15 of them in tents under an outlet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with a community activist in North Charleston a couple of weeks ago. He sent me an email information. He was hosting a 12 Days of Christmas event initiative focused on providing a home for the holidays. Identified just in the North Charleston high school, there were, I want to say he said there were 80 children that were that didn't have homes.
I am working with Charleston County School District, and they have that bento program, national program, and they traditionally end the year with 250 homeless kids. But right now, 500. Right now, they have 250 homeless families. And then when that Gadsden Green was condemned and closed, they picked up another 180. So that's, now I was going to ask you guys have a building on East Bay.
Yeah, we have a building on East Bay.
And you don't use it anymore.
You mean the brick building on the corner?
No, it's a more, well, it might be brick. It's more modern. When you're going on East Bay towards 26, it's on the right-hand side. I was just sort of curious because I'm trying to help them. It's crazy that, I mean, there's so many. Now, if you look at Manhattan has 15,000 homeless families every school. But down here, they're running at 500, but they're going to end up higher this year because of the Gadsden Green families that had to move. And there's just no place to go.
And it's, you know, I know, like, we worked a lot with art. You know, we went from the arts last name with the Charleston Housing Authority, not the department of the city, but the Housing Authority that, you know, oversees all of the low-income housing units. And his biggest challenge, and what he had proposed, you know, in order to take the first domino down for all the renovations and rebuilds that we need to do, we got to have somewhere to take folks that are living in the facility like on this day. You got to get them somewhere to then be able to do that one so you can snowball and do all the things that you want. And so that's when we had proposed that we get them some funding to build the project on G Street. But then the community just pushed back on that altogether, so the start over.
When we had a hospital, we treat 150 apartments. So East Hoover and Roper, and we did 250 apartments near Carolina Park, and 300 people showed up to protest, and the pastor of the church was so upset that he said he'll deliver a building to the community. But my whole point is, if you guys have any real estate that is, you know, could be utilized.
I mean,
Well, and you don't have to think now, but even again, shipping containers do really work very well structurally. And what I like about it, if you structurally renovate them properly, they're still hurricane proof, 180 mile an hour wind speed. So, you know,
that would probably be more likely somewhere that business partner, you know, says we need a property. If we have a fiduciary responsibility to sell the property, you know, they come up here and take those proceeds and invest in our capital project.
now, do you have any affordable housing?
Not yet.
Because I know I wrote a comment. I don't know whatever happened.
Well, they haven't. We had to scrap the plan and start over as the community, public community housing at the planning commission. The community just really didn't like not just to move forward with the plan that the planners at that time had come up with that had the affordable housing was a good fit. So we're back to the drawing board, and using the Rice and our College of Charleston to spearhead it. And so it's going through that process now. But there will be some level of affordable housing that will be required by the developer. And then,
Because the college just came out with their strategic plan, and I was at the meeting, and there's no affordable housing on it, so I'm asking them if I can serve that committee, because, I teach personal finance. I know financially where our students are, and we need to have some, affordable housing.
well, Kendra Stewart, who's spearheading that
Yeah, I know
effort,
Kendra.
she's got a second community committee that she's putting together. Did you talk to her about that?
I have not, but if I will.
Yeah, because there's a broader one. So the idea was the advisory board is the one representatives from each one of the kind of special interest groups and the neighborhoods that are adjacent to it. But she's actually putting together a larger group. And I think that would be a piece that they'd like to have covered. So reach back out to her about, I think they put a press release out.
Do you have a card? 'Cause I would give you, if you want, both cards, but
Here's my card. Yeah, just shoot me an email tomorrow and I'll connect you back with her and give you that information. I don't know where she is or how many people she's putting on there.
well, tomorrow is the final day for turning in grades, so she might be at the college.
Yeah.
I got mine turned in, so this is Housing for All Mount Pleasant.
Okay.
That's here. And this is Holy City Tracks.
Okay.
So this will be the one
Yeah, your state.
that works statewide, yeah.
Well, I will connect you on
Yeah,
that.
because I would, I'm meeting with, because the college has a pretty expansive housing proposal, and I said, where's the affordable? We don't have any. So I said, well, probably need to, and then if I can help Kendra, I would love to. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you, Denise. So hopefully there won't be too much on there. I've got a little presentation and then we've got the full council meeting after that. Which one is full council supposed to start? 5:30? Not to say.
I started doing this. Is this the county revitalization meeting after this one? Urban entitlement. Who is our representative from Mount Pleasant on that committee? Michelle. Oh, Michelle is. Okay, perfect. Okay. I couldn't answer that question today in the meeting. Thank you. Yeah, we just do. Yeah. And then
Yes, because I noticed that like at a state level, you can notice a meeting immediately upon adjournment. Like if you said your special meeting at 5 o'clock, you can then set the full council meeting immediately upon adjournment with a special meeting. But somebody told me you can't do that at the state level.
no, well, this is actually
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah. Back in the day, youth planning was just. Yeah. So I'm glad we do all this stuff first. This just started this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Luckily.
We're in the executive session.
Yeah. join as a online, just like register as a non-member, and then I'll do it for that. And so people, yeah, because her show is basically all what vendors for members to get. And she said, we passed that. This is the member for you. I don't know if it's done. It's going to be officially done or not, but it's there for you. So I'll go forward on that. I tried to get a member for 200 members. So Henderson, people always talk about that. I'm only going for that. Roll them out. What's my color? So it's really, yeah. That's a good idea. I just got a text from her yesterday because I did this with them a few weeks ago, and I think there was still some reports. Must have been maybe John O had left it on the desk or something. She like texted me. Maybe this is you. I was like, oh, it's there. And she's like, well, I'm back. I don't know what happened. That agency that she went to, federal agency, I never quite understood what the mission was. So maybe that was, and then also it was such a federal funding. It seems like they come through the microphone. Somebody's got a hot one.
Yeah, come on, man. Hey, guys. How are you? This is Kevin. Kevin, how you doing?
There's a bunch of deer outside too. I love it.
Yes, sir.
What was the young lady's name that you said was the?
Jamie Trader.
Retired, man.
Yeah.
Huh? Dog. Way too young for this stuff. There you go.
Was that good idea? Yeah,
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Here, how you doing?
All good. And now I can off.
Very good.
Gary, how are you? Merry Christmas. Decked out. Yeah. I'm a Thanksgiving gal myself. That's my gal.
Nice to see you.
Happy holidays. Potential. I'm one of 4 girls. These are things.
Middle?
I'm considered the middle because my younger sisters are twins. Okay, good, good.
2 weeks in the
That's what
I'm gonna be real brief, like less than 3 minutes. Well, thanks for letting me come back.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
What is this? What is this? Huh? Really? Well, I've got some handouts too then.
Oh, yeah?
I'm always
How
ready.
close are you?
Huh?
Oh, wow. Baby. Yeah. Surprise. No, you can call it a surprise. Do we have good stuff in our?
Depends on how the what? Oh, those are good. That, yeah, those are good. There you go. The sea salt caramel is really good.
Hi, how are you? But I don't know if that's.
Are we? Oh, Gary's here. Okay. All right, Mr. Pagliarini, you ready? Clerk, are we ready? Everyone, we have reconvened from executive session. This is our special town council meeting that precedes our 6 o'clock meeting. In executive session, no votes were cast, no action was taken, but there may be some motions resulting from the information that was shared there. Do we have one, Mr. Rambo?
Yes, I'd like to move to appoint John Ratliff to the Construction Board of Adjustments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the nomination, the motion to nominate, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. We have a new appointee. Next, please.
I will
Mr. Chapman.
move, in Historic District Preservation Commission, I would like to recommend James Baker and Megan Graffin. And I'm sorry, reappoint Mr. Warren Player.
Right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you for those new appointees. Next, please, one more.
I move to appoint Matt Senecal to the Commercial Design Review Board.
Is there a second, please? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion for the nomination, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. That concludes item number 4, post-executive session. Item number 5 is an update from the South Carolina State Ports Authority. Ms. Yarber, good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Jordy Yarber with South Carolina Ports Authority. Kristen, oh, there we go. In front of you, you have a copy of our annual report. I'd like to come and share this with you all. I just wanted to highlight a couple of items for you tonight. There's some extra copies on the table out front for those that are in attendance. You can also access it on our website at scspa.com for those that are listening in. Well, I'll be very brief. I know you have a long night ahead of you. The full report has our financials, our volumes, which we're seeing normalizing after the peak pandemic volumes that we experienced. There are also more details on projects like the Navy Base Intermodal Facility. But I would just like to remind you all the State Ports Authority is state-owned and operated public enterprise. So, like any good business, we have to have a clear set strategic priorities. Ours are listed here: advancing our operational excellence, growing and anchoring our cargo base, delivering critical infrastructure like the Navy Base Intermodal Facility that's currently under construction, and caring for our port teammates and maritime partners. We had our economic impact study updated. This is a study that's conducted by Dr. Joey Von Nussen, who's the state's leading economist. We are now showing 1 in 9 jobs statewide are tied to the port, so that's down from 10. And a 33% increase in our annual economic impact at $86.7 billion. So significant impact that we have on the state and a good return on investment that the state has in the port. I'll also just point out that as a state entity, as I've mentioned, we don't pay taxes, but we do generate $1.5 billion annually by our activities. On the capital expenditure front, over the last year, we invested more than $127 million, mostly in the Navy Base Intermodal Facility. As I mentioned, it's under construction. It'll be completed by 2025. That project includes a barge from the Wando Welsh facility here in Mount Pleasant over to the Leatherman Terminal, where we'll be able to take about 200,000 truck trips off of 526 by moving those containers via barge. So an exciting component here for the town and the citizens. Harbor deepening is complete. We are now the deepest harbor on the East Coast, gives us a competitive advantage against our other ports to the south and north of us. This means the largest ships calling on the East Coast can access our terminals without tidal restrictions, as well as pass each other in the channel. We graduated another class of port ambassadors. This is a program that I have the pleasure of overseeing. It's a great behind-the-scenes look at port operations. And again, as a state-owned entity, our shareholders are the citizens of South Carolina, and this program is geared towards educating those shareholders. Lastly, our community giving program. I was speaking with one of the attendees tonight about this as an annual program that we just announced. This is last year's numbers at $252,000, but we just announced fiscal year 24. So we'll open again next year for any not-for-profit that's interested in this program. Next summer, we will open for applications again. And then I just wanted to say truly a thank you from the Ports Authority to the town. We really value our partnership that we have, Mr. Mayor. We've been now residing in Mount Pleasant for about 5 years, I think it is now. So if anyone has not been out to our facilities and would like to come for a tour, go up in a crane. I know Mr. Brownstein would like to express interest as the newest member of council, but if anyone else has not done it and would like to, please let me know. We're happy to host you.
That would be great, and I want to thank y'all for all the ways you work with the town, not the least of which is the Wando Good Neighbors program, where they bring in all the neighborhoods on Long Point Road that are affected by the truck traffic, and we work through the problems and we work on safety. I will never forget Bridge Mageddon in 2018 when y'all worked with us to adjust the gate schedule to reduce the traffic in the town of Mount Pleasant. And thank y'all for being a great partner. Everybody knows how big the Ports Authority is. They could tell a little municipality, sorry, we can't help you, but y'all never do that, and we appreciate it.
We appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Any not to draw this out because we got other business, but if there are any questions or whatever, you got her contact info.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordy. Next item on our agenda is the Cresco Award presentation, and I will ask the chair of our historical commission, Deb Sutherland, to come forward and do the honors.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed members of Town Council. My name is Kate Miller. It's my honor to be here tonight as staff liaison to the Historical Commission with some of our members of the commission here tonight. As the mayor said, Deb Sutherland is our chair. This side, sorry. Courtney Tice, vice chair. We have Bill Hine and Brian Blaylock here. Each year, the Historical Commission evaluates numerous deserving candidates, and after careful consideration, one exceptional individual is chosen for their remarkable contributions. It gives me great pleasure To announce this year's recipient of the Cresco Historical Stewardship Award is Richard Habersham. Wanna come stand with us? I will now read the proclamation by our Mayor Haney. Whereas Mount Pleasant Historical Commission is charged with promoting the preservation, understanding, and appreciation of the town's physical and cultural heritage, and created the Cresco Historical Stewardship Award to recognize an individual, organization, or group that has done exemplary work in preserving, studying, restoring, or promoting the history of Mount Pleasant. And whereas Mr. Richard Habersham, president of the Phillips Community Association and longtime resident, stands as an inspired leader and trailblazer in preserving the historic Phillips community. And whereas Mr. Habersham played a critical role as collaborator that led to Phillips being listed as a local district in 2021 and later achieved the prestigious recognition of becoming the first settlement community listed on the National Register of Historic Places for traditional cultural properties in 2023. And whereas Mr. Richard Habersham's unwavering commitment, transparent communication, meticulous documentation of Phillips' founding, original landscape, and descendants' contributions reflect his dedication to preserving their heritage and providing a pathway for similar communities to follow. And now, for Mayor Will Haney, Mayor of the Town of Mount Pleasant, on behalf of the Historical Commission, am honored to present on this day, December 12th, 2023, the annual Cresco Historical Stewardship Award to Richard Habersham.
Thank you so much for everything.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again, and we really enjoyed the tour. Yeah, that was lovely.
On behalf of all of us up here, we want to thank you. And we see you a lot, and it's good to see you here. And it's nice to honor you for all your work. Thank you very much.
Mayor, thank you, and thank
You can make a short speech.
Mayor, thank you, and thank the town and the commission for thinking of me.
Exactly.
And we hope that we can live up to our expectation for the community and the town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Item 7 on our special town council meeting agenda is the presentation of the Kevin Williamson Award. Ms. Santos?
Can I trust giving Mr. Santos a check?
I think you can because you got witnesses. There
I've
you go.
only known him since I've been 5 years old.
That's
so
great.
I think we're good.
Good to
Mr.
see you
Mayor,
too. Thank you for
We,
being.
in council, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to use this forum as an opportunity to celebrate the life and the courage of Kevin Williamson. He was an incredible kid. He really, really was. And so we are proud this evening to announce the winners of the annual football honor, the Kevin Williamson Sportsman of the Year Award. Kevin Williamson thrived in team sports throughout his life. He played many sports while forging meaningful, encouraging friendships with teammates and coaches alike. He was a lifetime participant in several of Mount Pleasant's athletic programs. During his years at Wando High School, he played offensive line on the football team, the sport that held his heart. He received his varsity letter when he was in the 10th grade and competed in football through his college career. After college, Kevin returned home to Mount Pleasant, but unfortunately in September of 2016, he was diagnosed with a rare form cancer. Despite his prognosis, he continued to persevere, maintain a positive attitude, and live a full life, marrying the love of his wife, Lauren, in June of 2017. Sadly, just 22 months after his diagnosis, Kevin Williamson passed away at the age of 28. He was humble, kind, courageous. Looking at life, his love of sports is weaved throughout his story. He was the embodiment of teamwork, determination, hard work, and sportsmanship. In acknowledgement of these attributes each year, the Kevin Williamson Sportsman of the Year Award recognizes one Mount Pleasant recreation flag football player and one tackle football player. The award is not meant for the most skilled player. Rather, it is to honor those displaying sportsmanship, teamwork, love of sport, and competition. Coaches provide written nominations to Mount Pleasant's recreational staff to reduce to 3 finalists from each group and present it to the Williamson family to determine the award winners. Attending this evening's for tonight's awards are Kevin's parents, Kevin and Mary Louise Williamson, Kevin's brother Patrick, and Patrick's girlfriend Brooke. I ask that they stand up and be recognized. The first award winner tonight from the tackle division is Riggs Johnson. Riggs. I want to congratulate Riggs and his family. Coach Dunlap shared that Riggs is a dependable and steady team player who brings a good attitude to every practice and game. Riggs was born with a visual impairment that in the past has made the potential for retinal damage risky. This year, his doctors advised the Johnson family that the benefit of Riggs playing football could potentially outweigh those risks and suggested that he play. Not only has Riggs done an outstanding job making snaps and blocking, but he has also been a kind and positive role model for the entire team. The Johnson family is honored to play a part in carrying on Kevin's legacy. Congratulations, Cal. This year's winner for the flag division is Thomas Maggiani. Thomas? How you doing, buddy? Back up so everybody can see you.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. All right. According to Coach Phillips, Thomas is the youngest player on the team. He's not the biggest, nor necessarily the fastest player on the team. But every day, every practice, every game, every drill play, Thomas puts forth 100% effort. Perhaps even more importantly, he helps players when they're knocked down, picks up other players' flags when it falls, or when a player gets hurt, he's the first one there to help him. Coach Phillips shared, I asked the other coaches whom they thought should win the award, and they both answered, Thomas, immediately and without question. Congratulations, buddy. All right. Good job, buddy. You got it? All right. Look at the camera. Congratulations, buddy. Go put that on your mantle, okay? First and many.
And thank you, John, for making that so meaningful for us every year with your connection to it and the feeling you put into it. We really appreciate it. It's just one of the best things that we do. Thank you so much. That concludes item number 7 on our agenda for the special town council meeting. We will adjourn, and then at 6 o'clock, we will begin our regular monthly town council meeting. We stand adjourned from the special meeting. Reciting the pledge. Yeah.
Ready. I got it. Good. Tough job. Tough one.
Since we're down to two ladies now, I think it looks better with y'all side by side. And so, well, if we
fine.
spread y'all out, it looks like the guys. We got y'all covered.
We used to sit together on the end.
I know. I remember that.
We could kick each other on the table.
Elbow me when things going the wrong way. Yeah, me too much.
I don't know what school the two kids were from.
Oh, I don't know. A little bit, but then he's probably in his parking lot. Yeah. Mr. Hatterson. So I heard y'all went to Arkansas and got a bunch of ducks, huh?
Oh, we put a hurt on
That's
them.
good, man. Really? And what was the weather like? Was it cold and rainy and nasty?
The first day it was a little misty rain, but the next 3 mornings it was sun was out, the winds was up a little bit,
It was still
40
flying.
degrees. Yeah. Oh man. The longest we hunt was the first morning, and that was 2 hours.
Really?
The next 3 mornings, 45, 50 minutes,
That
we
right?
had 7 limits.
Wow.
Gone. We heard them. And I mean pintail, mallards, keel. We had a smorgasbord.
Bring you back?
We did. Yeah.
Oh, man. You're going home right, right?
Yeah.
Put a light on it. I know that's right.
I got Swede, when we got back home, he called me, he apologized. He goes, Gary, you were right. I told his story. He said, Joe. He said, I was looking at the wrong place. I was looking at I'm already there. I'm looking at it. I'm 65. I just turned 65. That job, I know. What you done now? Get the first check. January. 15%. We got my LLC, so I can still work.
Oh yeah, you do 100%, right?
I still not get penalized. But I have to resign for it. It comes with WIC. I have to resign from there. What for 4 years. I know you. So I have to resign from there, but I can still do my LLC. Do some work. I got 2 friends that work and die. He has no time to put himself. You know what I mean? It's already happening. I mean, I get the same thing now. I look at the clock thinking I got a meeting or I got a shift, and I'm like, no, you don't. I roll over and go back to sleep.
I still get up and all that.
I take a nap in the middle of the day. Got the fan. Got the fan on me. Taking a nice little hour nap.
You're known to take a nap. You're gonna love it. I'm telling you. Merry Christmas,
Hey,
guys.
what's going on, man? How you doing? It's been a while. Are you still working at the shelter? I think I went up there one time. Just visiting up there.
You been busy, man?
Someone told me about a month ago that states never had too much money. They don't have too much money to do a project. And so, turned down my lawyer.
Your lady said she saw you the other day.
So how's it going, brother? Yeah, it's going. They're getting their ounce out of me these days.
No shit.
Well, it's good stuff. Oh, there's my buddy. We've got a real.
I don't trust it. I don't trust microphone friends.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, so who has the conference?
No. Anyway, I was thinking, like, no obligation, but I've got the planning commission tomorrow. I might go out Thursday.
If I can shift some, yeah. Just send me an email first.
Don't go out of your way.
Or let's plan next week when you got something.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something, a shit show shall erupt. Okay. Well, let's buzz me. Say hey.
Thank you. I don't want it messing up my desk. Yes, sir. Good to see you. Miss you. We miss you. I'm sure. But they miss you. Don't let me take this book home tonight. I don't want to have to wait till next year to give it back to you.
If everyone would proceed to their seats, we will call the meeting to order, please. So good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the December 12th meeting of the Mount Pleasant Town Council. It's good to see everyone here. We missed having the Christmas parade this year, but the decision was made for the sake of public safety. But we did not cancel Christmas, only the parade. So that, and I want to wish Happy Hanukkah to all of our residents who are celebrating Hanukkah at this time as well. We will begin with the prayer by Chaplain Lewis Lee and then the pledge led by Mayor Pro Tem Whitley. Please stand.
Councilman Santos, you need to move your hat. Thank you, sir. We all bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for another day in your wonderful world. As we wrap up another year, help us to reflect on our good works and press on to the greater achievements in the future. Help us to incline our ear to your wisdom and apply our heart to understanding. May we constantly give wise instruction to our friends, family, fellow citizens. Greater knowledge benefits us all. Help us to realize that we cannot control tomorrow, but we can make a difference today. Protect our military as they protect us. Keep us safe, but above all, keep us faithful. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 3 is approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion, please?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The agenda is approved. We have a series of public hearings now. These are items A, B, and C, required by law to end each public hearing with a bash of the gavel. But if you'll lead us through these, I would appreciate it. Ms. Reed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This first public hearing is actually the second one for this proposal, which is an amendment to the development agreement between Carolina Park Development LLC and the town of Mount Pleasant. Proposed is to amend Exhibit C, which is actually the Plan Development Ordinance, to create a new mixed-use district called the Tomp Tract, including permitted uses and development standards on the approximately 38-acre tract of land located off Faison Road. The tract will include up to 30 attainable housing units, increasing the total dwelling units for Carolina Park from 2030 to 2060. Further amendments to the development agreement include the transfer of ownership of Ben Marino Way to the town, release use restriction to permit cell tower use on the town active park, and last, to extend the development agreement for 2 years. That's all I have.
All right. Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Please come forward, give name and address in 2 minutes. Anyone to speak for public hearing item 4A? All right. If not, I will declare this public hearing closed. This moves us to item 4B, another public hearing. Mrs. Reed.
All right. This public hearing is actually what is required for the public hearing here is Chapter 155, which is an amendment to our land development regulations. So this will actually go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing tomorrow night, but for a public meeting tomorrow night. But tonight is the public hearing for Chapter 155 of the Mount Pleasant Code of Ordinances pertaining to a newly established land development standard to encourage building and development practices for subdivisions of land and for construction of new homes, specifically requesting a 10-foot setback from the perimeter of the subdivision that would prohibit fill and grading that could cast stormwater onto adjacent properties. Also proposed is an amendment to the flood damage prevention, which is Chapter 152, which are regulations that would modify building practices in flood zones and low-lying areas, prohibiting the construction of slab-on-grade type of foundations for new residential construction. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak to this public hearing? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have David Quick signed up to speak.
Thank you. Mr. Quick.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate y'all's service as usual, and just wanted to speak in favor of these changes. I think considering the issues we have facing us with more extreme weather, more flooding and rain bombs and all those sort of things, that we really need to take a preventive action, and I think this is one step in that direction, so I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else signed up? Anyone else here to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward. Name and address, please. 2.5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ray Hobbs. My address is 2505 Charter Oaks Drive, Mount Pleasant, is Charleston National. I came tonight to speak on behalf of this amendment, and I brought an example that I wish to share with council about a current development plan that has been submitted to Charleston County Planning. And I'm sure you're scratching, oh, well, why Charleston County Planning in a city council hearing? Actually, this is a donut hole that exists, and Mayor Haney, I see you shaking your head. You know I've been here before. And this parcel is going to come to Mount Pleasant for water and sewer. And as a resident of Mount Pleasant, they should abide by the same rules that I do. And in their plan, if I may leave it with, would you like me to hand them out?
To the clerk of court.
Oh, okay. This is the preliminary plan that was submitted to Charleston County Planning Office last month for two purposes: to create a 20-foot easement and to advise on an encroachment to cut down a tree, a live oak tree, so they could do the easement. The easement is immediately adjacent to my property line. And the disturbance that that's going to cause to my property and the impact from stormwater runoff is not shown. There are 2 live oak trees on my property directly adjacent to the property line that are not even shown on their plan. I'm asking town council to vote in favor of this amendment and continue the efforts to make these development plans stricter and protect the adjacent rights, adjacent property owners' rights. Thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else to speak to public hearing item B? If not, I will declare this public hearing closed. This moves to item C, another public hearing that is to receive input on the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Urban Entitlement Program.
I think, sir, we have Gail Carson here to represent Charleston County.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to provide a very brief overview of our Urban Entitlement Program Year 2024 RFA, which opened on November 30th. The Charleston County Community Development and Revitalization Department, we serve as the fiscal agents for the HUD funds in Charleston County. We also are the fiscal agents for the Treasury ARPA funds. What we do, every 5 years, we develop a 5-year consolidated plan, meeting with citizens to hear what their needs are, and then we establish priorities for how our funds will be issued. So we are now in year 4 of our consolidated plan. Our funding is to be used in the city of North Charleston and Charleston County outside the city of Charleston. We have 3 funding streams: HESG, which is for homeless services or persons who are unsheltered; CDBG, which is our community development block grant funds; home funds; and CHODO funds. All of our funds are intended for persons who are low to moderate income, communities at low to moderate income, and households at low to moderate income. The type of things we offer are feeding programs, Meals on Wheels, summer camps, literacy programs, abuse prevention. We now have a program where we're looking at working with persons who have recovered from sexual trafficking. We also develop new housing for rent, new housing for home ownership, and repair homes of citizens who are income eligible. We also fund a homeless shelter and provide rapid rehousing for persons who are experiencing homelessness. So once again, our request for applications opened on November 30th. It will close on January 5th. We've had 2 training sessions, and we have developed a training video which is available online for nonprofits or towns to view and apply for funds. It is a very competitive application process. The way that the process works, persons, nonprofits, or towns can apply for funds. It then goes to our scoring committee. The scoring committee makes funding recommendations. It then goes to a community development advisory board. They divide the money up based upon the scoring and whether or not those applications meet the priorities identified in our 5-year consolidated plan. Those recommendations are then taken to county council, and they have the final determination about how those funds are allocated. These are participating jurisdictions. So these are the towns that are involved in deciding how our funds will be allocated and looking at funding recommendations that go to council. So once again, this is done every year. We have 10 jurisdictions on our funding advisory board that includes the towns, a financial representative, a legal consultant, and someone from the construction field, as well as someone who's appointed by our county administrator. So we are encouraging nonprofits to go to our website, look at our application, and if your services meet our funding priorities, by all means, apply for funds. And we look forward to doing more business in the town and funding nonprofits who are doing the work and assisting homeowners, citizens, and communities who are low to moderate income. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone signed up to speak? Is there anyone who would like to speak on this public hearing item? All right, there being none, I will declare public hearing item C as closed. Item 5, approval of the minutes from the November 9th special council meeting, the November 14th town council meeting, and the October 23rd financial statement. Do we have a motion, please?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, the minutes are approved. Item 6 is public comment. When Mr. DeMora reads your name, please come forward. Give your name and address. By ordinance, you have 2.5 minutes. Have not said this in a while, but remind everyone, if you don't know, it is live streamed and it is put on YouTube. If you would like to access this meeting, everything that all of us say is recorded and is out there for the public to see. Mr. DeMora.
Thank you, sir. First speaker, Mike Tinkey. Next speaker, Brandon Fisk.
Good evening. Tonight my name is Brandon Fish. I'm the Director of Community Relations for the Charleston Jewish Federation. Very happy to be here tonight. Tonight is the 6th night of Hanukkah. It's a Jewish holiday that celebrates the resilience of the Jewish people in the face of religious persecution. I'm thrilled to be able to spend this night of Hanukkah here at the town of Mount Pleasant Municipal Complex in support of your efforts in the creation of a municipal hate intimidation ordinance. This couldn't have come at a more important time. I am sad to share that the ADL has documented an unprecedented level of anti-Semitism. And unfortunately, here in Mount Pleasant, we've seen self-styled neo-Nazis bring some of that hate to our neighborhoods. Tonight, you'll hear from some of the members of our Jewish community, at least one of whom I believe is a Holocaust survivor and some who are children of survivors. They are here with us because the Nazis lost in 1945. And tonight, the Nazis will continue their losing streak when you pass this ordinance. This ordinance sends a message that hate has no place in Mount Pleasant, and it sends a message to all those who live, work, and play in Mount Pleasant that their safety is valued, whether they are Christian or Jewish, black or white, gay or straight. On behalf of our Jewish community, I want to thank you, Mayor Haney, and members of Town Council for your leadership on this important issue. You might know that this will make Mount Pleasant the fifth municipality in the state of South Carolina to pass a hate intimidation ordinance. The city has one, Bluffton, Columbia, and Greenville. And tonight, Mount Pleasant, the 4th most populous ordinance, will join this illustrious club. And hopefully some of these folks who have been coming into our town will find a new place to haunt at 3:30 in the morning, apart from our neighborhoods. Thank you all very much.
David Shim.
Good evening, Mayor Haney, members of council. My name is Dave Shemp. I live at 1551 Ben Sawyer Boulevard, Simmons Point. I'd like to address item number 4 under new business regarding the appointments to committees of council. 10 years ago, there was an extensive grassroots effort to take a tight turn on out-of-control development, and in 2 successive elections, we were able to replace a very divisive and often dysfunctional council and mayor. I am proud to have been part of the Save Shem Creek effort that helped elect a very effective and responsive mayor who had a strong vision and brought a new breath of leadership to Mount Pleasant. But now it appears as though there's an effort being considered to erode the mayor's authority that is already very limited under our current form of town governance. Instead of considering a change to the mayor's role in making committee assignments, I'd rather you consider changing our town governance to a strong mayor form as set forth in our state constitution, as would be befitting a town of our great stature. Thank you.
Gary Weinstein.
Well, oh, okay, thank you. Well, I'm Gary Weinstein. I moved here 7 years ago, and we were living in the hills of Mexico, and we decided to come here because I have my fourth child who is going into sixth grade. And I moved here because I was so proud of the Jewish community here, and we picked 7 other cities to look at. And suffice it to say, we were so happy to move here. And I'm not sure you know that we have a history in this community that I'm so proud of. First Jew came here in 1695. We've been here over close to 330 years. We immersed, totally accepted, totally part of the community, and have great pride in being Jewish here. I'm here to ask for your support in this ordinance for 3 reasons. Number one, it gives a message that we in Mount Pleasant will not accept hate or intolerance. And I want us to be a role model, not only for my child, but for my other friends who have children growing up in Mount Pleasant, that if you live here, it is not acceptable to hate based on gender, race, sexual identity, or on religion. The second reason I'm here is because I think we all know to help our law enforcement community. We need this enhancement so that we can send a message to Jew haters and other haters that it's not acceptable here. And our law enforcement folks need this enhancement in order to give more penalties. And which I like about this ordinance, if I read it right, is to allow a judge to give them sensitivity training. So if we catch someone doing this, we can send to educate them. And education is most important when people are ignorant and they're just plain stupid. Third reason that I'm here is I want to leave tonight feeling proud that I made the right decision to move to Mount Pleasant and proud to be part of a community that's been here since 1695. Thank you very much.
David Spack.
My name is David Spack, 2740 Palmetto Hall Boulevard. My wife and I moved to Mount Pleasant about 3 years ago because we fell in love with the Low Country and found that the vast majority of our new neighbors share our values: family, faith, and a deep commitment to the Golden Rule. Love thy neighbor as thyself, or do not do unto others that which is hateful unto you. Mayor Haney's and the Mount Pleasant Police response to the recent episodes, which have given rise to the 2 ordinance changes under your consideration this evening, have reinforced that we made a wise decision. For that, we thank you. As an attorney, I want to take just a moment to say what I believe these ordinances do not do and what they seek to accomplish. They do not impinge anyone's First Amendment rights to speech, assembly, or to petition their government for a redress of grievances. They are free to gather in public spaces and spout their odious claims and ideas. They are even free to lie, just as I am free to respond with my own speech. These ordinance changes do not change that. The ordinance amendments do, however, treat their conduct as both the trespass and the assault that they are. Trespass is an uninvited entry onto private property. Assault is an act causing the victim to reasonably fear imminent harm. The harm here is intimidation and the fear of both physical and psychological injury. I believe that the amendments before you are appropriately tailored to the situation at hand, and I thank the members of the council for your consideration and hopefully adoption of them. Thank you.
Katie Krawcheck.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. Sorry you can't see me. My name is Katie Krawcheck, and I'm 22 years old. And I go to NC State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a 4th year there, and I'm a double major in political science and Arabic. and I have a minor in journalism. And I'm a proud cultural and ethnic Jew. I grew up here in Mount Pleasant. This is where all of my immediate family is located, and throughout my entire life, I have faced copious amounts of anti-Semitism. In middle school, my classmates called me stupid Jew. In high school, I dealt with my peers programming a humanoid robot to say and do Heil Hitler when I walked by. The jokes about my Jewishness were plentiful, and I was deemed a laughingstock at my small Christian private school. I thought that going to college would be different. I thought that the bigotry was based in ignorance and a lack of knowledge. But on a college campus right now, it's very apparent that it's not based in that it's based in hatred and bigotry. And somehow, being on a college campus and being Jewish is worse than being here and being Jewish. As the only Jewish Arabic Studies major in my 38,000 person school, I have received death threats. I've been doxxed. All my information has been posted online by a classmate of mine, including my face next to my name. I've been cornered in my classes, and I have been taught false information about my own people in my Middle East history classes. Because I believe in equality and love for all human beings, because I believe that the Jewish people deserve a home, I've been targeted. I've been called an ethnic cleanser, I've been called a racist and a colonizer simply because of my Jewish identity. Our Hillel on campus has been vandalized as well. And I'm just gonna skip, I have so much to say. I've been told not to let the anti-Semitism get to me, as if it's my responsibility to hold bigots accountable. But the burden shouldn't fall on the Jewish community alone to fight against anti-Semitism, and this is why an ordinance like this is so important. The city that I love should be a place of love, a piece of religious and cultural diversity, and every person living in Mount Pleasant deserves to feel safe. It's 2023, nearly 2024. What are we doing? Can I finish? I have one sentence.
One sentence.
Cool. Passing this ordinance is a step in the right direction because similar ordinances have been passed in Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, and Bluffton. These cities have made the effort to eliminate anti-Semitism. Why shouldn't we? Thank you.
Diane Lee.
Good evening. My name is Diane Lee. I live at 1954 Enclave Drive here in Mount Pleasant. I will begin with appreciation and apologies. Appreciation to Mayor Haney and to the members of the Town Council who have put forward the hate crime intimidation ordinances. I thank you. Apologies that I left my cogent and concise notes at home on my kitchen counter. So you will not receive my well-prepared words, but you will only hear those words that come from my heart. And in the spirit of full disclosure, those words I had time to scribble on this piece of paper when I sat down. I have to say, I did not receive messages of hate in my driveway. I have not received messages of anti-Semitism when I was in school so much longer ago than the previous speaker. But I can say that that is as it should be, and that is as it should be in Mount Pleasant. There is no place for hate or bigotry in our beloved town. No place. Instead, we should be known as a place that refuses to tolerate hate and that applies appropriate consequences for those rare few who do promulgate hate in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our religious organizations when we are at worship. Rather, I believe that we can be a place that becomes known for other things, for cultivating tolerance, for loving our neighbors, and for creating understanding, and especially understanding across differences. I hope the spirit of these holidays will hold sway. I hope they will be present and reflected in your vote on these ordinances. I hope we will live our values, and I pray daily, may it be so. Thank you.
Jennifer Ray. Stephanie Zubin.
Stephanie Zwieben, 3631 Spindrift. Thank you, Mayor Haney. Thank you, Council, for considering this important hate crimes ordinance. I want to talk to you from a personal perspective, not so much from a political perspective. We have lived in 7 different states across the country. I was unprepared September 26th when I heard from a neighbor that there were hate packages on the driveways. I went outside to get the hate package, and I was so naive, I didn't consider that there would be poison in it, or rat poison, or ricin, or all of the different things we eventually were concerned about. I opened the material, and I felt like I was in a class again from learning about Germany in the 1930s. The characters were abhorrent, the lies, it was just so awful. I went into the house, promptly tripped on our stairs, and I got a deep vein wound that I'm still dealing with. It's been a horrible, horrible experience. Since we received that package, I want to talk to you about the things that I haven't done that I always used to do without giving it a second thought. We would attend outdoor Hanukkah events, like Hanukkah in the Square that took place this past weekend. I didn't go, I wasn't comfortable. I reduced our information in the Jewish booklet showing Jewish people in the neighborhood. Again, I was terrified to have our information there. I did not put a menorah in the window. Again, frightened of what that might do in terms of malicious people. I'm not wearing any kind of Jewish t-shirts, Jewish jewelry, anything that identifies me as a Jewish person. And I'm just totally frightened to be a Jewish person in Mount Pleasant, something that I didn't experience through all of my 67 years in the United States. So in closing, it's so important that we have a hate crimes ordinance so that people who are considering or actually willfully do these acts can be held accountable, and that can be part of their record, that they undertook these acts in the future. Thank you very much.
Denise Fugo. You don't have to. It was under general comments, so that's okay. You don't have to speak again. I think council heard you first time. So. Okay. Thank you. And Robert Wagenbrenner, are you waiting on item 9?
Yes.
Hi, Robert. Hey. It's been a long time.
I'm sorry. Can I speak some more?
Yes.
Actually, they were going to speak. They're supposed to speak from now in the public comment. They're a bit confused. You guys are supposed to speak now.
Okay.
Yeah. You're doing this part.
Sure.
And that may be my fault, Mr. Moore, because I told them I'm going to take care of the part when it gets up on the agenda. I've asked them to speak now.
Yes. Would you like to speak now, Robert?
Sure.
Please do.
Thank
Good evening. My name's Robert Wagenbrenner. I live at 1701 Daughters Run. I'm a retired Deputy Fire Chief, Mount Pleasant Fire Department. I'm here representing a group of retired firefighters. Really just here, I want to thank Mayor Haney and Town Council for your efforts to recognize Chief Teeter. For us, he was a rather extraordinary fire chief, but he was so much more. For many of us, he was a coach and a mentor. He was a teacher. He was a friend. He was a role model and a father figure. He did so much for us and for the town and the department. He took over as fire chief after the fire department was rocked by controversy in the 90s. He picked up who was left, dusted them off, and said, there's a better way to do this. I will lead, follow me. And he did. And he led with honor and distinction. And he was just incredible. He didn't bang us over the head with his ideals. He just modeled it every day. And we took note. Now, what he did do is he took a small department in a sleepy little town back then. And he helped march it forward to become what I think is one of the elite fire departments in the region, if not the nation. Now, how can you say that? August 2001, pretty monumentous for the Mount Pleasant fire department in the town of Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant Fire Department became the first fire department in the state of South Carolina to be internationally accredited by the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. It was one of the first 53 departments accredited in the world. 53 in the world at the time. Very arduous process. Not only did they become accredited, the first in the state, but they have since gone through 4 reaccreditation processes. And that is quite a feat. So we just want to thank you for helping us to honor his legacy as we look towards hopefully dedicating Station 1 at some point in his name. And just what you're doing is great, because we want generations in the future to look at that plaque and ask, who was Chief Teeter? I think they need to know, because his impact on this town, the fire department, was pretty incredible. Thank you very much.
Jennifer Ray, 149 Heritage Circle. Mayor, Council, I'm just here to say thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I want to express my gratitude to all of you and to the members of the Mount Pleasant Fire Department and past members of the fire department who have helped to bring this proposal to you tonight. I want to say special thanks to you, Chief Richie, for leading this and for coming to Dad and letting him know. He was very honored at the thought of this, and it just means a lot to our family, and I'm just very grateful to everyone who's made this possible, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Barry Wolf.
Barry Wolf, 1468 Pocahontas Street. Mayor Haney, members of council, I want to thank you for taking the first step and having the courage to enact a hate crimes ordinance. It's a shame that the South Carolina Senate insists on pandering to a constituency rather than pass a law in the name of Clementa Pinckney, their colleague, who was taken in the epitome of a hate crime. I would, however, like to express my concern with item 4 under new business by Mr. Icofano. Regardless of the form of government, the mayor is elected to provide leadership not only to the citizens of this town, but also to staff and council. The job of assigning committee seats here in Mount Pleasant has been held by the mayor position for as long as I can recall. It has worked and worked well. We elected Mayor Haney overwhelmingly in 2017 and 2021 and have entrusted him with that job. It is a job that he has done well. Over the last several years, we've not seen the division and chaos of former councils. Good work has been done in the committees, and that work has proven out efficient in the way council has run. It is also evidenced by the fact that many of us that felt the need to be here in the past to gripe and complain about this council hadn't been here for a while. To open the process up to the possibility of council members trading votes, forming PACs, unseating those who may disagree with them, and turning the process into some kind of high school popularity contest is not the way this town is supposed to work. This effort is a solution in search of a problem, and no good can come from it. Perhaps this matter should be taken up in committee and then brought properly to this council. Thank you.
Jessica Miller.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Miller. I live at 724 Harbor Lane.
which is right off Center Street in Waterway Arms Townhome Community. I've spoken to this committee many times before about our issues that we are having within the townhome community. You told me that they were HOA board issues. Well, we have unseated our board and we have replaced our board in the entirety. That was last year. Right now we have 64 units with 14 STRs operating and 2 on a wait list. It is very difficult to live in these conditions in our townhome community. Mayor, I know you know this. The town has decided a while ago that we were weak and we replaced them. Now we need your help. There must be accountability and enforcement of our ordinances. In the town's own words, the very ordinance you wrote is to protect the integrity of residential character of the town's existing neighborhoods and the quality of life of its citizens. The guests conduct themselves as they wish. After all, they're on vacation. There is no oversight other than us. The hotel owners do not take responsibility and help us keep our residents safe. To hold their guests accountable, because after all, how do you hold 8 people on vacation in 14 units? It's very challenging. The accountability comes at a high price. The residents must first incur an issue. It is an absolute merry-go-round of drunk guests, hotels operating without business licenses, parking issues, trash issues, parked boats. The biggest issue are parties and noise. We have filled out STR complaint forms, but by that time, it is too late for us. The burden should not be on the residents to do more work and provide proof of violation when we are reporting. We are already subjected to the issues, and now we need to fill out more forms. It's not reasonable.
Thank you.
Is that it? Thank you.
Will Sloger?
Good evening. My name is Will Sloger, 706 Nomad Lane. I'm here to talk about council members and advertising. I'm sure by now you've all seen the television ad featuring our mayor endorsing a product. I think that's a totally inappropriate use of the power and the authority of the office. It's just a bad look in general. It has nothing in common with attending ribbon cuttings. It doesn't matter whether there was a quid pro quo involved or not. It's just a bad look. I'd like to ask that you all pass an ordinance to make sure that doesn't happen again. Thank you.
George Freeman?
Good evening. George Freeman, 1450 Bowman Road. I kind of feel kind of funny coming speaking after hearing all the stuff about hate crime, about what I'm going to talk about tonight. But I was born in Mount Pleasant. I've been there for quite a few years. I won't say how many years it's been. But I started riding bicycle when I was like 5 years old. And I've been riding around Mount Pleasant when we still had dirt roads in Mount Pleasant. And I have nothing against cyclists because I'm still cycling myself these days. But I do not think putting that multipath on Rifle Range Road is a good idea. It's disturbing the quietness of the residents that live in those areas, and it's not necessary. Just as we have Coleman Boulevard that has bike lanes for people to ride on, which I ride on it myself. We have Hungry Neck that already has a multipath on it. And when Billy Swales gets built, I'm assuming that a multipath will be on Billy Swales. So if you go with Chuck Dolly with your multipath, go on a small piece of Bowman Road, go down Watermark, which already has a multipath on it that ties in with Midtown, that connects you with Hungry Neck. You can ride from the foot of the bridge all the way to Porsche Bluff without ever getting onto Rifle Range Road. And anyone living off of Hungry Neck or any of those other roads can ride into that road if they want to go north or south in the town of Mount Pleasant. That way, if you just want to go from one end of the town to the other, you have access to do that without disrupting the quiet of communities. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Kevin Cunane.
Kevin Cunane first. I was a little surprised that he mentioned the injured police officer. I just asked everybody to join me and pray for them tonight in your own way for the injured officer from Friday night. I'd like to say I support Chief Teeter being honored at Station 1 as well. Last Friday, we had a small and humble World Trade Center monument dedicated at the Memorial Waterfront Park. Thank you to the police and fire departments, to the council members able to attend, and those who voted for this small and humble monument. It should be noted that the mayor did what he could to prevent this monument for whatever reason that was. But moving on, tonight there is a discussion about council committee appointments. Seems pretty simple to just let the public see which committees each council member asks to serve on, and let the public see if these appointments are petty, spiteful, or political in nature. Simple. You could be for the transparency or against it. Just let the public see how this process works. There's countless examples of head scratchers, not just under this mayor, but in the last few, where council members were denied, where highly qualified council members were denied chairmanships and even committee spots. Again, just let the public see how it works. And I suspect it would end any of those type of games we've seen for several mayorships at this point. Just let the public see who asked for what committee and what their qualifications are. How could you be against that? It's a simple transparency thing. It's not about power. It's about show the public how the process works. And if somebody's denied, let the public see that a highly qualified person might have been denied. Simple. Doesn't require any money, nothing. Just let the public see. Be for transparency. And the public will see what's going on. Thank you.
That's all I have, sir.
Anyone else to speak? Yes, please. Come up, give name, address, and 2 minutes, please. 2.5, I'm sorry. 2.5.
Good evening. I'm Shirley Mills, 1885 Omni Boulevard. We are in the midst of the Festival of Lights this whole month, celebrated by different religions. Dear Mayor and Council, I propose that we combine all those lights and illuminate the haters in our community. They don't belong here. And as daughters of Holocaust survivors, we know how evil grows when good people remain silent. Thank you.
As a daughter of Holocaust survivors, we know where hate leads. We grew up with it. It was part of our lives. Now we hear it all around us, all over the world, what's happening to us and what's happening to Jewish people and how they're afraid. I tell people I live in South Carolina. I live at 2624 Coral Vine Court, and I've been a resident for 24 years. And I'm a proud resident of Mount Pleasant. And I tell my friends I'm not afraid in Mount Pleasant in South Carolina because the people here are caring people. And when all this happened in the Middle East, I was on my way to Israel at the time. And my cousins live on the border, and one of my cousins was massacred. And a neighbor came up to me knowing how upset I was. And she says, Reggie, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to keep talking. We are both Holocaust speakers throughout the community. And she said to me, Reggie, if you want to come to my house, if you ever feel threatened, you're welcome to come to my house. And I thanked her. And I hope I never have to take her up on that you here will protect us and make sure that this is a community that I've told people what a wonderful community it is. Thank you.
Name and address.
Reggie Gigi.
Address?
She said it.
Oh, got it. Got it. Okay. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Juan Goldman at 704 Gatepost Drive, and I would like to take a moment to express my appreciation for each of you who have had a hand in creating the hate intimidation ordinance that has its first reading tonight. I realize that this might have been initiated before some of the new town council members were elected, but I am sure they are of the same firm resolve that this ordinance continues the sure footing this town has always pursued when it comes to looking out for the safety of all town residents. Hate has no place in Mount Pleasant. It is also a testament to the power of working together and the leadership of a compassionate mayor and 8 council members who place trust in each other and in common goals above politics. I know I speak for many of us when I say we really appreciate your time and dedication to this place we are fortunate to call home. Thank you.
Next, please.
Good evening, everyone. Perry Rourke, 2004 Brick Kiln Parkway. I want to commend y'all tonight for recognizing Chief Teeter as well. I think that's a great way to memorialize him. Just wanted to state that we are fortunate to have a strong council form of government in Mount Pleasant that gives all elected members of council an equal vote. Residents I've spoken with support our council form of government, and they feel it is by far the best possible representation they can have. Government Mount Pleasant often starts at the committee level. I look forward to hearing from all members of council this evening as to how the current process of appointing council members to committees can be improved to allow for transparency and full council input and possibly a vote. To uphold and strengthen our council form and government and continue to provide the best possible representation for the residents of our town, this is what we need to see. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Greg Kent. I live at 833 Burnett Drive in James Island. And I listened to everybody here tonight talk about Chief Teeter. His handshake was his word and his bond. I'm getting emotional. For the better part of my 25-year career, he was my mentor and a father figure. For some of these men that are sitting behind me, too, that we worked with. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you're naming the station after him. It's a great honor. But I think you should do one better. I think we should find a street here in the town and name the street after him also. That would truly leave the mark on the town of Mount Pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Thank you all. I appreciate it. That concludes public comment. Item 7 is consent agenda items. There are no consent agenda items. This moves us into Section 8, planning. Item A, new business. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you, sir. As you recall, this is an impact assessment and conceptual plan that came before you all last month. It was deferred back to committee for further consideration, and we are back before you tonight. I'm happy to go through it all again.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Section B, old business. Item number 1, please.
This is
Move
final
to
reading.
approve items 1 and 2.
We have a motion to approve items 1 and 2. We have a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, before the vote is taken, this matter was taken off the consent agenda because there was a minor change in an exhibit to the ordinance.
Right.
And therefore it would need an amendment. We're requesting an amendment. That change is simple language in the deed that clarifies what is happening in the ordinance related to the telecommunications. It is not changing the ordinance at all, but again, it is an exhibit to the deed in granting that. And therefore, if council is behind this, it would be appropriate for a motion to amend as stated by council, and then vote on the amendment and then the final vote.
Move to amend as stated by legal counsel.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. All right. So first we will vote on the amendment, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. All in favor of the amendment as moved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The amendment is approved now for the approval, overall approval. And are we still on both items?
Yes, sir.
All right. For items 1 and 2 as amended, we have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries.
That's final readings of ordinances 23033 and 23034.
This moves us to item 9, which is committee action items from the planning committee. And I'll let you start, and then I know that the
I'll defer to Councilman Ritchie to introduce.
Councilman Ritchie, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. So the item on the agenda is to recommend to name the Fire Station 1 honor of late Fire Chief Fred Teeter. Probably about 6 weeks ago or so, I got a phone call from Jay Michelle, one of our former volunteer firemen, saying, knowing that Chief Teeter was ill, his time was drawing near, and says, you know, Chief, they called me. She said, what can we do to honor him? Can we get Station 1 named after him? And I immediately took that on. I said, you know, I want to see that happen. I want to push that forward. So I began working with our fire chief, the family. And as you know, this council voted for a process to approve monuments and memorials. This is the first official application of our new ordinance, which again, I think is appropriate. Chief Teeter always been in the front, being a leader, being first. Here is the first application. So the application was completed, submitted through the Historic Commission for review. Chief Nixon and I both spoke there. It was unanimously recommended to be sent to committee, where it did come to planning. And then and thank you for putting it on fire as well, because it's appropriate talking about our fire chief, and to have it discussed and considered for full council. And if you see here on this plaque, this is the language the family provided us, as well as our fire department, fire chief, and it really looks good. I mean, in my opinion, I'm not trying to sway anybody, but I don't expect a no vote tonight. Chief Teeter worked here from 75 to 2001. He actually began as a police officer, and you know what that means to me as a former police officer here for all these years. Mount Pleasant is very unique, where our police and fire work so closely together. You'll see a lot of other jurisdictions, maybe some type of rivalry. Never. I was talking to some of our former firefighters at lunch today. I mean, we've done SWAT calls together, side by side, medical calls. And Chief Teeter, even though he's fire, would not hesitate to come support us as a police department. And I think that's been the same with our police chief, our current chief, as we sit here today. So what I'm going to ask is, or if you want me to make the recommendation, I will, I'll make the motion to name Fire Station 1 in honor of the late Fire Chief Teeter. This was his fire station. He lived in the old village. This was his. And he had a lot to do with the design of it as well. So that's my motion, sir.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion?
The only other discussion, sir, is if it is approved, I will get with Marcy and Finance. So we do have a vendor, and I'm being told it's a roughly 8-week process to get it here. And then once we get it here, then we'll have a plan working with Chief Teeter and Nixon and family to actually do an official dedication of Station 1.
Thank you
That's all I
very
have for discussion, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It's our pleasure. Good to see the family here.
Thank you.
That moves us to item 9B from the Finance Committee, recommendation to accept the annual audit. Mr. Rambo.
So at our Finance Committee meeting, Mr. David Irwin of Malden and Jenkins presented an overview of the town's fiscal year 2023 independent external financial audit. The Finance Committee discussed the presentation with Mr. Irwin and staff and recommended acceptance of the report. And I'd also like to add that the audit was a completely clean bill and everything was in order. So thank you to Marcy and your staff for yet another year of perfect audit. So with that, I would like to move that Town Council accept the audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, and thank you for that. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion to accept the audit as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you, Marcy and staff. This moves us to section 10, council business under new business.
Move to approve items 1 and 2.
Items 1 and 2. This is our hate crimes and hate and intimidation, which is an enhancement of the penalties for certain crimes. And 2 has to do with distributing handbills in inhabited private premises. We have a motion. Did I hear
Second.
a second? And a second. I don't know if anybody has any questions of legal counsel. This did come unanimously from the Police, Judicial, and Legal Committee. And we addressed constitutional issues. This does not limit anything that anybody can say in public, which is where, for their free speech under the Constitution. This mainly has to do with crossing over someone's private property line and being placed on their property. Any further discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Rambo.
Yeah, I do. The motion was for 1 and 2.
Yes.
Correct, Ms. Whitley? Okay. So I do have a question about item number 2.
Okay.
With the handbills, for them being left on premises, when I read it, it seems pretty cut and dry that you can't essentially leave any sort of flyer or handbill. Does that also include flyers from political candidates? So political candidates who go door to door, and some of them even have the little door hanger ones that you hang on the door or anything like that. And are we even allowed to limit that by state or constitutional law?
Right. And it's an excellent question and one that was considered by committee as well as legal. We would take the position that no, this is handbills, and we cannot discriminate as to the type of speech, whether it be commercial, whether it be hate speech, whether it be anything of that sort. So you are correct in understanding that it would limit every single type of leaving information without directly handing it. Now, also keep in mind that this is inhabited private premises, so this is occupied residences, not generally in public, but residences.
You still have the floor.
Okay. Okay. Yes, so that part actually does concern me. And legally, we feel like that passes muster. There's no sort of state law that.
Yes, sir. Keep in mind, and just for council's edification and that of our citizens here tonight, as well as watching, the first part, item number 1, is a general criminal enhancement. It applies to our chapter, our criminal code. If these elements are met, then it's an enhanced penalty. Item number 2 relates specifically to distributing handbills at inhabited private premises, and it adds an enhanced penalty for that as well. So there are 2 different things that we're talking about tonight, although they are somewhat the same.
Okay.
As far as penalties are concerned.
Okay. One follow-up question to that is, I know when I'm thinking of just examples of, I'm sure everybody gets these from random landscaping companies or whatever with a little bag full of rocks that have a flyer in them, and they throw them out trying to advertise their business. If somebody was caught doing that, is it the person that's doing that, or is it the business owner that directed them to do that, or who actually receives the fine or penalty?
It could be both. It could be one or the other. As in any case, I think there's a prosecutorial discretion and analysis that follows an investigation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And again, this is first reading, so we cannot make amendments on first reading. Those would be appropriate for second reading, which would happen in a month. Mr. Ackerman, are you guys going to be right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you pull up the first reading part of number 1, please? So I know, like, right on the state level, an attorney general comes in. Who is making the decision on the hate crime part of this? Is what my question. Who's making that decision? We're on state level, attorney general.
Sure.
We come up with decisions. We're appointing judges.
Right.
So who makes that decision on where that?
Well, I would first say that these ordinances relate to the town of Mount Pleasant and our municipal court process. This does not apply to those cases which would be brought in general sessions court. And for those who aren't aware, general sessions offenses are those that are penalized for more than 30 days in jail and more than $500 fine. We, as a municipality, all municipalities are limited in that capacity. The decision-making process starts with the investigation. What can the police department and the investigation prove? There is, as I mentioned earlier, an element of prosecutorial discretion. And as you will see here, there are options that the court may impose. Community service, suspended sentence, fines, direction of those fines, and restitution. So throughout the entirety of the process, there are decisions that would need to be made by all levels of professionals, starting with the police department, continuing through the prosecutor's office, and then ultimately to the court.
And how does this relate to minors as well? So we understand. I mean, we're
Yes, sir.
What we're passing.
Well, minors, there, as all are well aware, there are different charges, penalties throughout the state where certain ages are treated as adults. But as it relates to minors in these types of offenses, those charges are not discoverable by the general public. Minors are treated separately, and those charges and results are not disclosed and eventually may be expunged from their records. So this would not change how minors are treated. It would not affect that in any way.
Okay, just to recap. So crime happens, and it starts on the police level. That on the way that they file the
Yes, sir.
crime. Okay.
Yes, sir. In any charge, and of course, Chief Arnold is here, and he can explain that. But there is always a level of discretion. And as I mentioned, it first starts with the arresting officer, the department, and the results of an investigation, and that can change over time. Sometimes you see charges that are increased. The initial charge is not necessarily the final charge. There could be an array of charges as the investigation proceeds. And of course, in order for this criminal enhancement, all of the factors would need to be met. And of course, we're subject to the proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard, just as in any crime in the state of South Carolina and the United States.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be a yes vote tonight on this, but I think it's important that we understand putting something
Yes, sir.
in. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? The motion again was to approve both items 1 and 2. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, if I may, I think in a perfect world, an ordinance like this would not be necessary, but unfortunately, the events that members of our community have experienced over the past several months have made this a necessity. I find it incredibly sad that we have people coming to our town to intimidate, to target, to instill fear, and it's just, I find it incredibly sad that instead of spreading truth and love, that people are coming to victimize our community and to make people feel uncomfortable in their own homes, uncomfortable placing menorahs in their window, uncomfortable attending public events. And so I find this ordinance incredibly necessary at this point. I think it sends a powerful message. I think it categorizes the acts that we have been experiencing in an appropriate way instead of littering. It's hate, it's intimidation, and I hope that it will serve as a deterrent for people both within our community and outside of our community to not come to Mount Pleasant, that we are not afraid to deal with the problem, and we're not going to live in fear of people, boogeymen, coming in the night and distributing hate at our doorstep or at the foot of our driveway. And beyond that, I hope that by passing this ordinance that we send a message to Columbia that it is beyond time for South Carolina to pass a hate crime law at the state level so that each municipality isn't put through this process. We are one of only 2 states in the country without such legislation. People have been lobbying for it for more than a decade at this point, and it's beyond time for the State House to catch up with communities like Charleston, Bluffton, Greenville, and tonight Mount Pleasant. So I hope Columbia is watching and that this sends a powerful message that it is time to pass hate crime legislation at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Yes, Mr. Rambo.
Missed one question I had, and thank you, Mr. Brownstein, for those comments. The one follow-up with for the handbills one, would that also include placing flyers on people's car, like in a commercial parking lot?
Sir, this relates to inhabited private premises.
There's already a thing about car windshields.
Correct.
Yeah, there's
Right.
another law about car.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
that's
Right.
already
This
okay.
is private residence only.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve items 1 and 2. I want to remind everybody this is first reading. We have to have a second reading in a month, and would love for y'all to come back and speak in favor. That's my personal opinion. All in favor of the motion to approve both items 1 and 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
First reading of ordinances 23038 and 23039.
This moves us to item 3, first reading of an ordinance to amend the budget for the town of Mount Pleasant for fiscal year commencing July 1st of this year and ending on June 30th of 2024. Ms. Kotoff.
Yes, sir. Good evening. There are only 2 items proposed for this year's mid-year budget adjustment. The first is the true-up of the town council's fund balance policy, transferring $2.1 million to the capital asset fund for infrastructure. The second is in review of the debt service fund. We realized we had excess stormwater money above what is needed for our SRF loan or state revolving fund loan. So we are requesting that we transfer $1.2 million over to the capital asset fund for a reserve to be used for stormwater basin repair matches.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
First reading ordinance number 23037.
Item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding appointments to standing committees of council. Mr. Ikefana.
Yes. Thank you, council. Thank you, public, for showing up. So the reason I brought this, and I have a little bit of a slide that I don't know if it could show up on the screen or not. I'm very, get a little crazy on Excel, so I do apologize for that, but I can email it to anybody. So the reason I brought this up is we're a council form of government that's duly elected by the citizens of Mount Pleasant. And we have to understand that the government starts at the committee level in Mount Pleasant. I originally, when bringing this up, was looking for a transparent, time-sensitive, equitable way to standardize the process. And I can go over that as well. You know, the question becomes, do we have a system in place that does not show favoritism, that doesn't have political persuasion to it, to ensure that we don't have a skewed allocation of resources that deepens any existing or creates inequalities and impedes the overall progress of the town. You know, we want to make sure that we have a process that's built on strengths, passion, desire, experience, and really just the want of a council member to serve and dedicate their time to an actual committee. If we look on here, I did do something really quick, and it's actually the third page that it starts on. You might go back. Oh, go back. Sorry. So what I was presenting was a way for a council member, without having to request a meeting with the mayor, to be able to turn in what their outside professional experience is. And there's a key to the right. What their seniority is, what their commitment and time to each one of those committees is, what their interest and desire is. That would give an average score. They could then rank those committees. What do I really want to serve on? I'm going to rank that number 1. Do I want to chair that committee? What's my goal for the committee? This could then, because, you know, what happens is we have to wait to see if we're going to be able to have a meeting with the mayor. Do we put it in via email? Are we going to meet in person? Is it going to be a phone call? What I'm proposing is that when we do this, this would be due by the 3rd Tuesday of the month. The election is the 1st. The council meeting is the 2nd. Nobody is waiting. Nobody is questioning. You have your chance to fairly and transparently submit your requests. Then I think that it should be due from the mayor on the 4th Tuesday of the month. Nobody's waiting, trying to find out, what am I on? Are we going to find out? It gives everybody enough time to then form their committee and come up with, excuse me, and come up with their next agenda. That form would then go to a form. If you flip that page, I don't know where we're at or who's doing that. That can consolidate. I did not want to use up all my time, so I just showed on Daniel Brownstein, alphabetically, that form would automatically go into a form, and we could turn this into clerk of council, automatically goes into the form. There's things that by ordinance the mayor must chair on, and by excuse me, and that there is only one position on. But this allows us a fair and transparent way to turn this in to the mayor if we want to discuss. And I understand that we want to push this to committee because that's where things happen in the government, right? That's where the work is done. And the issue is this affects all of us, and we are a strong council. And I'm not up here tonight to ask that we redo all committees because I'm on 4 committees. We can go to the next slide, please. This shows where you were in 2021 and where you are in 2023. The bold is the chairmanship. I did ask for more. I was happy to be on 6 or 7 committees, and I did get a private meeting with the mayor. I'm not sure what other council members are going to speak tonight, and if they're going to speak as to whether they were given the chance to actually meet. But I think it's important that we give the public that equally votes us in, equally. We're not districts. We all have the same voting pool. We need to be transparent with the public. When the public's asking me, why aren't you doing more, John Icfano? Why aren't you on more committees? I can at least let them know that I turned something in. We can make it. I mean, this is up to council. If something like this were to go through, it can be an advise and consent where maybe it does go back to council for final vote on the appointments that the mayor recommends. But I like that we're just up for discussion on it. I appreciate those that signed off to have this as an open discussion.
I will be happy to put this on the Police, Judicial, and Legal Committee agenda for January. There are a lot of statements that have been made that do misrepresent the roles or the form of government that we have. I would like to remind all council members that every council member has the same authority and all as every council member of every form of government in this entire state. I'm the only one sitting up here who has less abilities, less authority, and less ability to do what the voters sent me here to do than y'all have. And that this has been by ordinance. I spoke to somebody who was on council since the 1980s. And I think the success and the smoothness of council these last few years has shown that. And but thank you, Mr. Icofano, for the suggestion. And I'm also the only one up here who has had to make public my feelings, because when I make those assignments, I have to move people around. Sometimes I change chairs. Sometimes people don't. Everybody doesn't get what they want. The mayor doesn't get what the mayor wants because the ordinance says where the mayor has to chair. So, but I have been public and transparent. We usually release it to the media. I have to defend it to the media. So to say there's any lack of transparency, I've got the forms with me tonight. If y'all would like to fill it out, and I sent you one today, Mr. Icofano, and show me how you would have done it better than I did it, then please do that. And why don't you make that public so we can see how you would have done it differently than I did it. But this will be on our committee agenda. You can also put it on the HR committee agenda, which you chair. And if there's no motion, knowing that it'll be going through committees, we will do work in committees and see where it goes. Yes.
So I supported John in placing this on the agenda for this evening because I felt that this is something that impacted full council, and that going to committees where one committee is chaired by John Icofano, the other committee is chaired by the mayor, that it just made more sense to me to kind of come to full council and have the discussion. I appreciate the concept that John has put forth of submitting rankings, and so that because I did have a call with the mayor where I discussed with him the committees that I would like to be on, and I think that having sort of a ranking system and an interest level and an experience level would be helpful. So, for example, I sit on fire committee. My experience with fire is 0. My goal on the fire committee is to give the fire department whatever they need. That's my goal on the fire committee. I think that maybe that makes me a great choice for the fire committee, but it does not. I'm not vested with any sort of like special ability or knowledge that I can add to that particular committee. I think that another was the potential. Like I sit on the CVB, and I had thought that potentially I could roll off that, and I thought that John Icofano could potentially be a good representative, as he is a businessman in the hospitality industry. And the decision was made to keep me on CVB, which I'm fine with. I enjoy being on that board, but I think for me, when I look at this, there are certain committees that have more responsibilities than others. There are certain committees that meet more than others, and I think that having a methodology where every single council member is allowed to, or is enabled to give their ranking and give their input, and then I think that could provide the mayor with more guidance as well in making those ultimate decisions. I do think having 9 people make a decision as opposed to 1 is potentially fraught, because you could have sort of factions or horse trading, as was mentioned in public comment earlier, with thoughts that I'd also had with regards to having multiple people try to make these decisions. But I do think a way forward that would be more transparent for the future would be a positive step in supporting the work of the town. And you also don't have to be on a committee to get stuff done. It's just much easier if you're on the committee.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Just real quickly, I think I've been on town council now about 23 years. I've been serving longer than everybody up here, including the mayor. And as you can see by the graph here, I've got the least amount of committees. So I agree with John. I'm glad he's looking at this, and Jim as well. I think we need to look at it. I think there needs to be a change in how it's done. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents worth. When you've got someone with the most experience on the least amount of committees, I don't know. There's just something wrong with that, I think.
Well, Ms. Santos, I'll make you the same offer. Please take one of the forms and fill it out and put the chairman and the committee members that you would have done differently from me, and let's see which changes you would make. I invite you to do that. Yes, sir, Mr. Brownstein.
I'd like to echo GM's comments. I'm all for transparency throughout the government process. I think, as John stated, or maybe it was GM, a lot of our form of government, the ideas and the concepts and the plans are born at the committee level. And granted, I'm the newest person here on town council, so I don't have a lot of experience with how this process has played out in the past. I was not able to meet with the mayor, and there were some extenuating circumstances on my end as well as his. So I think I would have welcomed a process by which I could, state my interest, state my expertise, and leave it to him to put me in the appropriate spots. I did want to bring up one potential idea for whichever committees study this. There are certain committees that meet more frequently and I think are more germane or central to our town's focus. The ones that immediately come to mind are finance, planning, and transportation. And so I say finance. It's incumbent on every member of this council to understand the town's finances and what impacts the decisions that we make have on our bottom line. Transportation and planning, I think, line up with some of the major themes as you're talking to our residents in terms of their major concerns about the future of our town or the current conditions of our town. So I'd like to propose that we potentially look at making those three committees committees of the whole, so that every member of town council would have the opportunity, if they wish, to participate in those meetings and those discussions. I think that has the potential of making our form of government more efficient. And so right now, some of the items that come up on our town council agenda, they are essentially crafted or decided by 3 or 4 members of town council. It comes up to the full council. People have questions, people want to make changes, so it bounces back to the committee level where those are hashed out, and then it comes back to the whole council. I think it may be a more efficient use of staff time if those issues are decided by a committee of the whole at the committee level, as opposed to bouncing things back and forth. So I would hope that whatever committee this ends up with, that's something that they consider, because I think that may make us more efficient and effective in serving both the town, its staff, and the residents. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sure. First of all, I'm going to say, I don't care who's sitting in the mayor's seat, who's been elected the mayor. We must do what's best for Mount Pleasant and the residents. That's got to be first and foremost when any decision is being made. I would say personally, I don't care for a score sheet. My 37 plus years of public safety, I'm not going to come down to a 3 or 4 or 5, or I would get a 0 in seniority being a new on council when I far have more experience than anyone sitting here, public safety. So again, I'm not necessarily a fan of a score sheet, but I will tell you, and I've had this discussion with many of you, if there's a better process, if there's a way to improve, we owe it to our citizens to take it to the committees, look at it line for line, and if there are better processes or best practices, look how others are doing it, and bring it back to our group to discuss instead of having, again, Mr. McConnell, thank you for your work and all you did on this, But again, just having one thing to look at tonight, I think we need to look at much, much more and look at the process to serve. So that's my opinion. And thank you all for what you said tonight.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I take a little bit of exception to you being the most experienced. Maybe as a police officer
Or in Mount Pleasant.
or in Mount Pleasant. But I can say that I've worked for 4 separate governments, not all of which were in the state of South Carolina. In each case, the person who was the mayor or chairman, because some councils don't have a mayor, they have a chairman, were the ones who appointed the committees because they, the chairman or the mayor, had to work with every committee. In 2017, the mayor of Mount Pleasant outvoted the heaviest voted council member by right at 2,000 votes. And that's the council member who received the most votes. You can back that down. In 2021, the same thing. Actually, it was closer to it was right at 2,000. That to me says that the mayor has the public's interest at heart as much as anybody else, if not more so. When I ran for council the first time, 2019, I ran on a statement of civility and respect. Since that year, in the last 4 years, we've had that on this council. And if you don't have it, there's a saying that you need to look at. And that saying is, if you get along, you can move along. If you can't, you won't. I'm going to point out one committee, Ruth, when I first was elected. I had been the chairman of the Planning Commission for 2 years. I'd been on the Planning Commission for 8 years. By all rights, if what Mr. Icofano is suggesting, I should have been the chairman of that committee. And I was wondering why the lady that was appointed got appointed instead of me. Now, fast forward. What was happening before I got on council was that the comprehensive plan wasn't getting passed. It was delayed for almost 2 years. And that was where a very long-serving council member happened to be chairman. And so I thought, I think I can do better. Well, you know what? With the chairman that we have and had and still have, we got the comprehensive plan passed in less than a year. I think she did a pretty good job, and probably better than I could do. Now, according to state law, we don't need committees. They are not required in state law for any government in South Carolina. And I got this directly from the Municipal Association. But somebody smarter than me figured out the committees working together can get the job done. In other words, they can get along. They can move things along. I think that having an ordinance which states who is responsible for committee assignments, as many governments have done, is the right thing to do. But every single decision a committee makes, hopefully everybody remembers when they make a motion in those committees, is to recommend to the full council. They don't make the decisions. Committees don't make the decisions. The decisions are made by 9 people. Now, we could have all 9 people on every committee, and I will suggest we have a committee that deals with finance, and that's the budget committee. It's a committee of the whole. Everybody is involved. Those are long days when we have the budget committee meetings, but we get it done. We get it done. I'll go to one more committee and shut up. While I was working for the city of Charleston for over 20 years, I was a member of the Commissioners of Public Works. I was the mayor's appointee. When in college, I studied water and sanitation. Now, I thought I'd done a lot, and having spent 20 years on commission for CPW, I should have been chairman of the water committee for water supply. Now, fast forward. The mayor had a better idea. He appointed a person who had knowledge in the community as a elementary school principal. I think that was the right decision in retrospect. And it was the right decision because he could work with people. He could work with people at Waterworks as well as council. I had an idea that we needed, and part of my campaign was we needed to clean up Shem Creek. I will say I brought that to the committee during public comment. And fortunately, today, as a council, we are working with Mount Pleasant Waterworks and have a process in place to get that started. Now, I think that based on what this town has done for many years, I think that based on the fact that the mayor is out there by himself when he runs for council, and when he can glean the most votes of any of the council members, not to mention the most votes by over 2,000 in the last 2 years, he must be doing something right, and he has the will of the people at heart. I'm not in favor of this process, but I'm glad to review it in PJ&L. But I would hope that human resources can get started looking at something that's been there for 6 months and hasn't happened, dealing with a former police officer, actually 2 former police officers who are retired and have asked questions about their health. Hadn't been done. We need to get started in human resources and get that taken care of or answered. That former police officer deserves an answer. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, yes, sir, Mr. Rambo.
Yeah, so I would just like to add, I think, Ms. Whitley, I think you said this at the beginning, is no matter whether it's one person that decides it, whether it's a council that approves it and can edit it, either of those options can become politically tainted by favors or whatever whatever. I mean, if we really want to look at what the fairest way to do it would be committee of the whole, and everyone's on every committee. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone be on every single committee. We have a lot of committees, but I am certainly not. I am certainly open to the idea of taking the 1, 2, 3, whatever it be, the most intensive committees. And as the chair of the finance committee, I sometimes sit through committee day and cringe at some of the discussions in other committees that don't consider finance. And so anyway, I'm certainly not opposed to the idea of a couple of the committees potentially becoming committee of the whole. I know that's how MPW does it. The school board does it that way. I believe Charleston County Council has maybe 2 of their committees are committee of the whole, and the rest are appointed. And so anyway, and I would like to kind of explore. I'm not sure how many of our other municipalities around us do committee of the whole or committee of the whole for some committees. So I think that'll be a good discussion.
Thank you all for your input, and I'm sure there'll be more discussion down
Do I
the road.
get a second here?
Yes.
So, Howard, I do appreciate you bringing up the former police officers. I just got on the HR committee, so I'll definitely be looking into that. I do appreciate that there's a lot of great ideas here tonight. I mean, that's kind of the point. I think there's some type of misconception going into tonight. What I've asked for is a fair way, a fair time-sensitive way for council members to be able to submit to the mayor what committees they want to be on and how they rank those. I put a lot of work in this, but I mean, this could be thrown out and replaced with something else. That's fine. But what I'm talking about is I don't know that Gary Santos had a chance to meet or if he was asked to meet. I know Daniel, by just stating it, he never had a chance to meet. Outside extenuating circumstances come up, people get sick, people go on vacation, you should be able to turn in something that says, this is what I want to be on, and this is what I think I can add to the town of Mount Pleasant. Now, the issue goes with the fact that I am looking for transparency and equality. I do have to say one thing. There is a note in the finance committee that the person on ATAC has to be on finance committee. So I'm not sure if might be taking one away from me here because it is in the ordinance. I need to look into that. The other things when you discuss transparency and you talk about wanting to have a form, and I know you sent me a form earlier today. I don't want to fill out a form where I just guess people's qualifications for being on something. It goes against everything I'm saying. I don't want a form and I haven't met with each one of you. I don't want to fill out a form to determine what you should be on without meeting with you or without you ranking what you want. So the answer to filling out that form is I'd be happy to fill out that form if I could have a discussion with every council member and they want to tell me what they want to be on, then yes, I will fill out a form for them. In full transparency, with the CVB appointment that GM Whitley brought up, the reasoning I was given for that, she asked me to be on it, and she asked you to appoint me to it, and she can confirm or deny this, but what I heard was you went back to her and said that the reason I can't be on the CVB is because of an association with Moms for Liberty. So I don't know. That's not true?
Not about CVB, no, sir.
Okay. Well, I apologize if I misheard Ms. Whitley on that. I'm sorry. Then I sent an email to council stating, hey, I asked for more. Can you give me some reasoning why I can't be on more committees? And you mentioned internal and external reasoning, and you wouldn't give me that internal and external reasoning. Then we could talk about a private meeting that council members had to discuss committees. There was 4 people in that meeting, 3 council members and the mayor, well represented on this list. So, I want civility, Mr. Chapman. I really do. It is definitely easy to talk about civility when you have a lot of committee appointments. So I really appreciate it. I want civility at all. I'm not causing this. I asked, what are the external reasons? Why can I not be on committees? Why can I not serve the town of Mount Pleasant when I'm asking for more work? And I've proven that I have done good work. Now, I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about a transparent way to turn it into the mayor. There's a private meeting of council members. 3 council members meet with the mayor to discuss everybody's committee meetings. Yet other council members didn't even get the chance to meet with the mayor. I do not call that equality and transparency. I'm not trying to take your power away. I'm asking for equality and transparency. Then there's a phone call 10 minutes after the agenda goes out. And the phone call is to another council member. And the phone call states that you would like that council member to call John. And that you need to let John know that if he continues to pursue this on council agenda, that he will be forced, you, the mayor, will be forced to bring up external circumstances, and that I probably don't want to hear those external circumstances. And then you went on to tell that council member what those external circumstances were, from what I'm told, unless you want to deny that tonight.
No, when I had to make these committee assignments, I think I was faced with a legal situation that no mayor has ever had to have hanging over this council. And when this was put on the agenda, there was no executive session item put on there. When it goes on the PJL committee, there will be an executive session so that we can get an update on that. I think the council has a right to know. And but I assure you that all of those type circumstances that I didn't create or cause have to be considered for this town and the best image of this town, considering the possible outcomes. And that's all I'm going to say.
You're stating there's an unfounded allegation against me?
You just said about you. I did not say that.
Mayor, I'd like to make a point of order.
Please.
We always discuss any personal issues for anybody we're appointing by this council, like we did this evening, in executive session. So I would suggest we stop this discussion immediately.
I agree.
Well, why are we stopping the discussion? I don't understand. What you guys had a private meeting. 3 council members had a private meeting with the mayor to discuss committee appointments. I think we're all in the public at this point. I don't know why we can't. I don't know why we can't continue discussion. I don't understand. Why is there a point of order about this? I mean, there was external issues, supposedly external issues that don't allow a council member to be put on committee meetings, be put on committees. I don't understand. A phone call. What about the phone call? Did we just ignore a phone call where the mayor called another council member to intimidate me to not discuss this? Did that phone call happen? No?
I don't owe you any answers.
Okay. 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 You don't want to answer that?
No.
Okay. Does the council member that got the phone call want to answer? And I don't want to put them under any pressure, so I apologize if I do.
It's fine. I will speak to this. The mayor and I had a conversation. The mayor knows that Councilman Icafano and I have a good working relationship, and the mayor felt more comfortable relaying the message via me to speak his truth, and so that is what I did.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'll leave it in the hands of council at this point. We're our council of the whole, so I've spoke my piece, and it's again, I ask for transparency, equality, and committee appointments. I am not asking for these committee appointments to be changed. There will be one change to the committee because by ordinance, somebody that sits on finance must be on ATAC. So there will obviously be a change, I'm guessing. I really don't know what the next steps are, Mr. Pagliarini, when somebody makes a phone call to intimidate somebody when they bring something to full council as an agenda item for full discussion.
You're asking me what next steps are in relation to that issue?
I don't know
sir?
if there's a next step on that or not.
Well, that's a council decision
Okay, thank
as
you.
to next steps, sir.
Let's move on to item B, old business, final reading and ordinance to amend chapter 110, business license code of Mount Pleasant with an updated class schedule and other
Move
changes.
to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Yes, sir.
Never mind.
You're the chair of finance.
No, I answered my own question. I was thinking it needed an amendment, but it doesn't. The whole thing is to amend it. So
Got it? Okay, so the motion is to approve. This is final reading. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Final reading ordinance number 23036. Sorry, sir.
Item number 11 is to adjourn. There was a miscommunication about who would say something about the officer this evening. Adam Blankenship. I'll take responsibility for that. Many of us have been down to visit with the family. He is doing much better. The community, as you have seen, is responding overwhelmingly with support, both financial, prayerful, and emotional. And so keep him in your prayers. And every report that we get is better. And we have a lot to be thankful for in that. So with all of this having been said, we stand adjourned.
We do have a committee of the whole, budget committee.